He was a hacker, but more than that, he was the last surviving member of Masters of Deception, the rogue hacker group that splintered from the infamous teen hacker gang Legion of Doom during the early 90s. He was born as David Koenig, a name he'd stopped using after his induction into the LOD as Hans Bloodaxe. He had eventually left the trade after the FBI cracked down both LOD and MOD operations nationwide, sending most of his colleagues to jail. Only his unmatched skills had prevented his capture. Bloodaxe vanished overnight from the internet and joined the respectable high-tech workforce in Washington, D.C. Now I'm back, you bastards. He'd been up most of the night working on his masterpiece, finally collapsing from exhaustion on the living room sofa, where he'd slept until his alarm clock woke him up minutes ago. 2 hours is enough rest, he thought, convinced that true genius did not need much sleep. Images flashed on his screen as he launched a set of programs that retrieved 1,000 lines of assembly language code from a directory buried deep in the ThinkPad's hard drive, protected by a triple layer of software shields. The hacker wasn't worried about an illegal user breaking into his system and accessing his coveted file. He feared the virulent code in the file breaking out of the nested software cocoons he had designed to keep it contained. The fatal sequence of instructions and data, improperly handled, could easily neutralize his system in seconds, gobbling up millions of bytes of data. His software retrievers performed just as he had designed them, accessing the malignant strain with the caution of a biologist handling a vial of Ebola, moving it to a customized editing screen. He spent the next hour touching up the code, adjusting the virus's target address, rate of replication, and the subroutine that defined its mutation sequence. A feeling of omnipotence descended on Hans Bloodaxe as he yawned, momentarily regarding the huge Millennium clock across the street, counting down with a near-hypnotizing rhythm. He glanced at the folded edition of yesterday's Washington Post. The city planned additional layoffs this week. More of his friends would lose their jobs, just as the master hacker had lost his 2 weeks earlier, when the city no longer required his computer services. After I spent 5 years working overtime to modernize their traffic light system. Bloodaxe clenched his teeth in anger. Although it had not taken him long to secure a position with a private firm in Portland, Oregon, he still resented the city for the way it had discarded him and a dozen other programmers the moment the new system went online, without even having the decency of offering a severance package to tide him over while he looked for another job. And now it's time for the bastards to feel a little pain. The hacker reviewed the code once more, making certain that it would act just as he had programmed it. He wanted to punish city officials, not the general population of Washington, D.C. He wanted to attack the tumor without hurting the patient. And he felt convinced he possessed the skills and determination to do it, just as he had done it so many times in his not-so-distant past, a past he had worked very hard to keep buried. The authorities no longer looked for him, giving up after 2 years of unsuccessful high-tech tracking. Bloodaxe knew that today's strike would renew their search. Although he didn't plan to leave a personal signature with his work, he knew that once authorities captured a copy of the mutating virus, they would be able to compare this masterpiece with his previous work and make the connection, like matching high-tech fingerprints. But that was a risk Bloodaxe was more than willing to take to teach these city officials a lesson. Satisfied, he enclosed a copy of the string in a software cocoon, designed to keep the virus contained until it reached its target system. The next step was finding a way to pierce the city's software defense system, designed to keep hackers like Bloodaxe out of the non-public directories, and deliver his deadly software packet. Logging onto the internet, Bloodaxe dialed into one of several modems he suspected still existed at the city's central traffic-controlling branch. These modems were used exclusively by employees who wanted to log in from home to follow up on their work. Bloodaxe had owned one of these modem accounts once, but the system administrator had cancelled it upon his termination. The sysadmin, however, had only cancelled Bloodaxe's account. He had not removed the modem's dial-in number from the system. Paranoid that someone might suspect him if he used his old dial-in number, Bloodaxe chose a different one, belonging to Bloodaxe's former boss, the manager of technical services. Poetic justice.